Welcome to Accounting Life with Jotham Ty. Today's episode is Life in Accounting Advisory Services. Our guest today is Lauren Robinson, Manager, Accounting and Financial Reporting Advisor at TBH Consulting. On this episode, we talk about what it's like to work in accounting advisory, the essential skills accounting advisors need, and how you can pursue a career in this exciting field. Now, our host, Jotham Ty.
Hey, Lauren, how's it going? Thanks for joining us on today's podcast. How are you?
Hi, Jotham. I'm glad to be here and excited for this.
Well, I am excited to talk to you because for the first time in our podcast, we are going to drill down into the life of advisory services. And, as much as I've been around the accounting world for as long as I have, I haven't really spent any time on the podcast, like getting to know about the experiences that folks like you've had. So really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah. And I know I'm new to this world, but slowly picking it up and excited to share, my journey along the way and how I got here.
Well, let's actually start there. Just for the audience's sake, it's always nice to just take it from the top. And if you can share, what your accounting journey has been like, I think that'd be a great place to kick off.
Yeah. So I started off as a marketing major at Ohio State my freshman year. So needed to pick a major right when I got to Ohio State, and marketing was kind of what I knew. So just went with that and picked it. And fast forward to the spring of my first year, I got a phone call from a Deloitte recruiter, and I had no idea what Deloitte was at the time. Frankly speaking, I was like, who is this and what are they wanting from me, right? And I'm so glad that I received the voicemail that I got and went down that path, because it has taken me to where I am today. So I ended up interviewing for a leadership conference that summer and went to Deloitte University and just fell in love with the people in the company. I felt like, I met so many leaders that I just saw myself connecting with and ultimately wanted to pursue Deloitte. So that turned into, fast forward, 2 internships where I chose the audit function because it just resonated with me really well, and ended up spending 6.5 years at Deloitte doing audit services and a little bit of some internal roles, but ended up in the advisory world a year ago and have been loving it ever since. So that's a fast forward version.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'd love to actually touch on a few of those points. Yeah. One being, we have something in common. I didn't know this going in. So I actually also started off in marketing.
Look at us.
I know. So how many people do you run into every day, accountants every day, that started in marketing and went the other way? Hey, I think, we've got a special couple guests here today, me and you, for the podcast. For me, just to quickly share how I transitioned out of marketing, it was actually earlier on in college. As part of, getting your marketing degree, you needed to take accounting, right? So, just like everyone who took accounting 101, and
the weed out
class. But to me, it was like the fall in love class. I learned how logical debits and credits were, and I felt like that. That was something I could master. And here I am, 20 plus years later, as an accountant. So when you
I think
marketing at Ohio State,
I think it was the same for me. Going through those accounting classes, I made sure to do my due diligence, right? I actually enjoyed accounting and wasn't just switching my major because I loved a company, right? But it was just logical and followed how my brain worked, and being able to know, even though this is a puzzle, there's an answer at the end. And that's what I loved about it.
Exactly. The logical kind of mentality and it's like problem solving. I think to me was the appeal to accounting. I do want to ask though, it sounds like you had a choice between audit and something else.
Yeah.
And so what was, what tipped the scale over to the audit side?
Yeah. So one of my first internships with Deloitte was essentially spreading out my summer across advisory, audit, and tax. So it ended up being around 2.5-ish weeks in each function, which really isn't a ton of time to make a decision on. But I based my choice around, the work was pretty similar in each, doing pretty intern level tasks, but the environment is what I was able to base my choice on the most. So I felt like the audit environment, again, a little bit more of that problem solving, team dynamic environment was just what stuck with me personally. So that's what I chose. And ultimately, I think it worked out for the best and was the service that I best aligned with. But I did have that fortunate opportunity, which unfortunately a lot of students don't, right? You end up picking your path before you've even taken an audit or tax class most of the time. So I was super thankful for that experience.
Yeah, well, and with audit specifically, and like you pointed out, as interns, and I was an intern once myself. Of course, you're relegated to some admin things, but it gives you enough exposure to what auditors do. And for me, one of the appeals, Lauren was just being able to understand like business and how they run, right? So you're going through in an audit, understanding the transactions that you're vouchering and tracing and tying out, but understanding the top-down aspect of financial statements and 10Ks and 10Ks to me was like, oh wait, I want to learn that. So I can understand why that choice is made. But now fast forwarding ahead to your career as in the accounting advisory space, I guess before I ask what the difference is between that and audit, like how would you define accounting advisory? So I think some accountants maybe confuse it for like the transactional services. I mean, there's so many different terms that Big Fours have.
Very broad.
If you can describe like what accounting advisory is, I think that would be a great place to start.
Yeah. So accounting advisory, I'll use a cheesy but really good phrase, is rather than, and not getting too into the difference between audit, but it really is sitting on the same side of the table as your clients, rather than as an auditor sitting across the table, right? For very good reasons, for PCAOB regulation. So we don't have another Enron. You're sitting across the table. But with accounting advisory, we're working hand in hand with management, basically to help them go through and solve any accounting issues that they're having. So that can range from building financial statements for the first time to helping them go through. We also do transactional work at my firm where we're helping them calculate net working capital immediately after a closing of an acquisition, to stock-based comp, debt versus equity. It's all those really critical decisions and treatments where we're helping them come up with an answer.
So it sounds like it's a mix of operational, also technical, and so it really runs a gamut of different types of services that finance team needs, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. To your point of operational, we're helping identify at the same time what an organization might need, right? Because at the end of the day, we know we don't want to stick around and be a crutch that our clients are leaning on forever. We want them to succeed on their own. So we can point out as well, this is a gap that you have on your team and something that we've observed that you should really hire for or get a system for. So that's an operational piece that, again, for that love of business overall, we get to utilize as well.
I think that's super cool and obviously very different and wide from audit. So I guess segueing into that, like how would you compare and contrast advisory and audit?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more critical thinking on the advisory side. And that's not to say it doesn't happen in audit, but at the end of the day, you're giving a reasonably assurance, right? You're giving a reasonable assurance and we're saying, yes, this seems materially right. But with advisory and accounting advisory specifically, we have to give the exact number for certain things. We're putting together your stock-based compensation is this exact number down to the decimal. All those numbers matter. And we're helping management come up with what the right treatment for something is. So I think, I don't want to say the stakes are higher, but we're making more significant judgments because we are part of management's team ultimately. And I think that just brings a little bit more weight to the game of you have to be able to communicate really concisely. Hey, here's why, if we talk about stock-based comp still, here's why this option is equity versus debt, and going through the technical guidance and really being sure that this is the right answer. And this is how you price this. So there's a lot of just more, we're taking it one step further with advisory than I would say in the audit world.
Well, and I would imagine your experiences from the audit side translates pretty well to what you're doing now, because you just mentioned stock-based comp, which is a nightmare for a lot of companies. And the fact that you've had experience auditing it and proving out or determining whether these calculations are right or wrong in your capacity as auditor, I'm sure was it's good for you to take on the advisory side, right?
Yeah, but I don't think I could do it without the audit background. It's so foundational. It's imperative that we have that knowledge and those investigative skills and just learning, again, overall financial statements that translates so well into advisory.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know both you and I are now beyond our audit careers, but whether it's for benefits that you take with you as now in the advisory services space, or for me, even, running a company, I can still point to a lot of things that were great in audit that I have grown and learned from that I use to this day. And, I guess as a general statement, I may have said this in previous shows before, I really do like how, what kind of skills you acquire on the audit side. And, I can go on and on and on, but obviously the audience would probably love to hear from you more than me. What kind of specific skills would you say you picked up during audit that helped with this particular transition?
Yeah, I would again say it's so foundational. And my time at Deloitte made me who I am today as a professional, but as a technical accountant at the end of the day too. So I think that technical aspect of just getting exposure to different technical areas was, again, something that I could not be doing my job today without. So I think that's a big thing that allowed me to have the development and skill set that I do now. So all those audit areas that I tested, from cash to revenue to significant areas, they were just a baseline for understanding at the end of the day how accounting works and how you get to build your financial statements. I think investigative. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please finish your thought.
I was going to say, just that investigative spirit that you learn in audit too is so critical, because it helps us, right? We're not running around pointing that everything's wrong on the advisory side, but if this might need to be enhanced, and here's how we can do this, and you get to take it again a step further to come up with, this is the right number and here's the reason why. So I think the investigative, and speaking operationally again, being able to identify gaps in a process where, we're missing a control here and here's why this is failing down the line, that gap analysis and thinking about controls, that's super helpful and has been, again, foundational for being able to be a solid advisor.
Yeah. And that right there, Lauren, just kind of got me thinking about one of the points and actually words that you brought up, investigative. And this is more behavioral than technical, but I think when you start your career with professional skepticism, I guess is the term in audit.
Yeah, the buzzword.
The buzzword. You become more inquisitive and curious about, you're not just accepting the world for what it is. And I think starting your careers with that goes a long way in translating into more curiosity in your future roles. But I want to flip this and go on the other side now. So you just shared examples of how audit helped you transition to advisory. What new skills did you have to pick up in advisory that you didn't get from audit?
Yeah, I would say the research element is a lot heavier than it was in audit. So that's been something that I've had to build on this year of, again, being able to take what might be a 700-page revenue roadmap and boil it down to, okay, I'm analyzing a new contract that a client of ours has entered into. What's the manner of identifying those 5 rev rec steps and being able to really apply them? So I think taking the research and using the codification to be able to boil that down to, here's how this works and here's how we're applying it, and not just reiterating those 5 terms. That's been a skill that has really come to mind of having to hone in on more. So research and application. Another one I think is taking, again, that curiosity a little further along of maybe why a client's going through an acquisition at the time period they're in, or suggesting different market factors that may come along with a different acquisition or transaction that's going on. So I think just general market knowledge has been another area that I've always been intrigued by, but something that has come to be even more relevant as an accounting advisor.
Yeah. And actually, as I think about my own time in advisory, I think the understanding the context of why the business needs to accomplish something that they're engaging you for is important. And that's not necessarily a critical orientation on the audit side, although of course, very helpful when you know what your auditee is going through, but it's paramount on the advisory side. So I think that's a really great point there. And just as a final fun question on the audit versus advisory, a part of this discussion, like what do you miss the most in audit?
Ooh, I think this is a cheesy answer about Deloitte and all the big four, but I'd say the people, right? They're the depth and breadth, to quote some of the folks at Deloitte, is so massive, and you have such a large network of people. So that's not really specific to audit, but maybe the audit practices in general at the bigger firms. You just have so many folks that you can reach out to, that you can learn from, hear their journeys, and help you move along the way. So that might be an answer.
Yeah. I think that's spot on. And I think about my own experiences, and it is the community that I miss a lot. And I'm not suggesting this is the way it is now, but when I was in audit 20 plus years ago, we worked our tails off to complete audits in a very short period of time. Yeah. And when you're doing that with a group of people kind of in the same phase of life as you, you just build like relationships and a community that lasts for a very long time. So I always joke about this. If you look through my Instagram or Facebook friends, there's going to be a ton of them that will come around my time in audit because it's just a special time in your life where you're grinding it out with everyone, and the bonds that you form is just very special.
It is. It's almost like college 2.0, right? You're coming into kind of a freshman year stage again, where you have all these friends that you meet and people that are going through new life experiences with. And it's really cool to watch how everyone matures through their time at the big four and goes about their different paths, but you have such a foundational relationship.
Exactly. I love it. College 2.0. I maybe you would throw in like boot camp, military boot camp 2.0 with it. But I mean, I think a lot of us can look back at the time, and at least for me, I can't speak for everyone. I really enjoyed my time there. As hard as it was, I think I would not have done it any different way.
Correct. Ditto.
So, segue into our final set of questions here, and just thinking about the audience, and for those that are thinking about making this type of a decision in their careers. So, obviously, there's a new wave of accountants, maybe very ChatGPT proficient, AI proficient, but without going into the technology side itself, like what kind of advice would you give to anyone, whether they're new to the industry or if they have been in the industry for a while, if they want to follow a career path for the advisory function? Like, what kind of advice would you give that audience?
I would say to kind of what we talked about, just start understanding market forces more and more. So again, it's going to be something that our clients are looking to us for guidance on, or at least we need to be knowledgeable and be able to speak about them. So, why a client might be going through a debt restructuring at a certain time, that again, all has to do with the market. So I think that's paramount to be able to just be familiar with. So that'd be a big piece of advice that I would give, is just figure out a manner to do that, right? I look at morning brew, not every morning, but I'd say 4 out of 5 days a week. That's a good source for me and provides a little bit of a laugh. But you got the New York Times, you got CNBC, all the options to just stay a little bit abreast of what's going on in the market. I think another would be exposing yourself. And right, this is super easy at the big four, like we talked about, but just exposing yourself to leaders around you. So talking to the partners in your office or the leaders, whoever they may be, just to understand what are their priorities, what are they thinking about when it comes to the big picture on your audit or in the industry that you're working in, so that you just start, again, coming up with that high level thinking and curiosity, because part of us as accountants is being in the weeds. We love to be in our Excel sheets and getting things done, but sometimes it's really necessary to pull ourselves out and remember, okay, what am I doing this for ultimately and why? What am I building? What am I showing at the end of the day? So I think that's a big piece, that understanding how those above us think and what they're focused on can help bring together and bridge that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And your point there about leveraging advisors and people that can kind of help provide that market context, I think is important, and accelerating just about any role within the accounting profession these days, especially as automation takes on more of the mechanical tasks. And, I know we hear this expression so many times, but accountants that are looking for more strategic roles, have to have that market context. You can't be, oh gosh, Lauren, this always frustrates me when I think about it and bring it up. Over the years, and I think this is probably more prominent earlier in my career, I was surrounded a lot of times by accountants who maybe work on the GL side, not the revenue side, and say, oh, I know prepaids really well, I can reconcile cash, but I have no idea what the company I work for sells.
Yes. Yep. How do they make money at the end of the day?
Right. And it was fine back then, I guess, because you had so much spreadsheets to handle that you had no time to really understand the revenue model of your business and what they're going through. But in this environment, I think that's completely different. So I love the advice now and just, understanding the market context, and which will open up opportunities for accountants to be strategic.
Yeah, exactly. And then the tech, right? I know you said not to get specific on this, but it is critical to be able to understand, because all of our clients are getting into this, whether it's software development or truly utilizing more automated items. We have to understand them at the end of the day, whether it's from the audit side or, again, advisory, where we're bringing up, okay, how are controls working when you're reporting this data or using automated functions. So it's something that we're going to have to touch and be able to at least understand on a baseline. There's always going to be someone smarter than me on the tech side, but I need to understand baseline what is happening. So I think it's still super relevant.
Absolutely. And perhaps we can save that as a topic for another episode. I think the advisory angle to technology obviously is an important piece of the market.
And we're leading the way.
Yes. So, it's technology like ChatGPT I mentioned earlier helps me research, and you mentioned research being one of the key differences in the advisory space. But it's helping me research the best mole in different cities. And I am huge on mole these days, so it's been very beneficial for me. But more on technology, hopefully for a future episode. Lauren, I definitely appreciate you joining us today and all the wonderful wisdom and advice that you shared regarding advisory.
Of course. Yeah, this was so great to catch up, Jotham.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for stopping by. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want more information, please check us out at gapify.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.